Welcome, everyone, to this edition of Talented Universe. This is Friday, I believe, August 30th, 9 p.m. Eastern Time. And I would like to welcome our co-host for this evening, Marcia. How are you doing this evening?
I'm doing great this evening and ready to talk about the arc with our special guest.
Jag, how are you doing this evening?
I'm doing great. I'm ready for part 2 of this incredible series of the arc during this summer. This is awesome.
Roger, how are you doing this evening in Arc 47D?
The Arcaholic, is ready to go.
Oh, that is great. And I would like to introduce our special guest, a staff writer on the arc that actually wrote episode
6.
Five. Museum
Okay, let's start again.
Yeah, let's start all over again. Museum of Death. Yes. Lovely title.
Yes.
Lovely title. India Sage Wilson. How are you doing tonight?
I'm doing great. I'm very, very excited to be here and chat with you guys.
Thank you.
Well, we're very excited for you to be here. Now, how long have you been working with the arc? Is this your first season?
Yeah, this is my first season, and I think we started writing this in April, like right before the writers' strike. So more than a year ago. So a little while now.
Yeah, that the strikes kind of messed a lot of things up. So
yeah.
But hey, you do what you have to do.
Exactly. Yeah.
Let me start out with one comment. This is one of our rabid fans, Nathan. Hey everyone. He makes GIFs.
Oh yes,
you've seen his stuff.
I have. I've used
it. Oh wow.
Yeah, Nathan does get around. He missed Shalini, Chalamet. Yeah, but
I do want to say, Nathan, I did give you a shout out on the program.
Yeah,
yes,
he did.
We did.
We missed you.
Yes, we did.
We missed you.
Well, I'm happy he's here.
Yeah, well, we're happy he's here too. And he says thanks for using the GIFs. So yeah, cool.
For making them.
And making them. Yeah, that's the thing. Let me go to Roger first, and then we'll just kind of go around a little bit, and I'll throw up some chat questions when they come up.
Sure.
Okay, I have no poker face, so the minute Michael said go to me, I was like, oh, awesome. No, all kidding aside, I'm going to get to it. If you have seen some of the episodes, we've been able to mess with some of our guests by asking them in all their glory and arrogance, if you had an arc under your command, what would the number be? Because we've asked, others, and they've given us some wonderful answers. Actually, they're all wonderful. But if you were part of the program, and if you were captain, admiral, whatever, what would your arc number be and why?
Okay, definitely captain, first of all.
All right.
I think it would be 12 because that's a number that comes up a lot in my life. My birthday is 12/12. And I think that it's a good number where I feel like the tech would be tested enough that it would be pretty working pretty well by that point, but still kind of fun new frontier vibes.
I like it. I appreciate that 12. And again, we have to make up a list. I believe that's the first time 12 has been used.
Correct.
So it's really good. And I'm not sure if you're a Star Trek fan, there's a resident joke amongst all of us that if you have your first ship destroyed, replaced, or whatever, the next time they make it, it has a letter behind it. So sadly, I'm on version D. So you can take that for whatever. It's not the fifth generation. It's the generation, but that's okay.
I feel like maybe stop giving you ships. I don't know.
Hey, you know what? I'm still here. Michael chose Arc 2, and if you're familiar with the storyline, that's the one that blew up.
Yeah.
So Michael has great taste on that one. But all kidding aside, India, I was going to say it again, all kidding aside. We appreciate that you're on with us, and I like to go for some of the personal stuff. And if I ask a few personal questions, say, hey, dude, lay off. I know we're both in LA, but come on, man. You have a mobile phone?
Yes.
Oh, good.
Phone or Android?
I have an iPhone.
Oh.
Okay, on iMusic, if we go to your phone right now, what is the first song that shows up?
Oh my gosh, on my music? Let's see. The first song on Apple Music or Spotify?
Oh, whichever one. Whatever
Okay.
is the one that gets you going.
Let's see. I'm opening it. I'm on Spotify the most. And it was Red Wine Supernova by Chapel Roan. That's what I was listening to.
I like it. Okay. It gives all of us an idea and understanding. So, okay, that's your first song. Going along with that, with your musical taste.
Yeah.
When you're writing, and okay, you need to remember that we still have the impression that there's a writer's room.
Yes.
Where you work. Does that still exist with the ARC, or are you guys all on video now?
We were in an actual physical room, which is really nice.
I bet, yes.
But yeah, when we're each working on our scripts, that part usually happens at home. So that's when I'm at home with my music, and then we like break the stories together in the room.
Okay, I was going to follow up. I was going to ask, when you are writing, do you have it just whatever on your music, or do you have like a playlist specifically for writing? What gives and what is the music that gets you going for writing?
Yeah, my writing music is different from if I'm, I don't know, working out, walking around, whatever, cleaning.
Oh, sure, yeah.
For writing lately, I've been listening a lot to the soundtrack to that movie 1917.
Yes. Wow.
I like to listen to soundtracks when I write because it kind of gives you a sense of like, something with the right rhythm or kind of a similar vibe to whatever you're doing, gives you a sense of how it'll feel on screen. So that's what I like to do most of the time. If I'm feeling a little bit anxious, then I'll listen to something with lyrics, but something that I know really well so that I can just kind of like play it on a loop and it keeps me kind of grounded.
That is cool. I appreciate that. Well, look, as I'm not sure if it was mentioned, we're going to be doing the round robin, and I'm going to acquiesce to Marcia. Go for it, Marcia, and I will have some other questions.
Okay.
We'll go back to the ARC later, but I wanted to get the personal stuff away. Sorry.
Well, sure. When JP was on, he kind of dropped it that this might have been your first sci-fi foray. How did that come about? Because I know you wrote for Dynasty.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, which in its own way sometimes felt like sci-fi.
That's what I was thinking.
That's funny.
Yeah.
I actually watched some of your episodes. So. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I always really liked sci-fi, and I had like personally in my free time written I think 2 or 3 different kind of sci-fi scripts, and I also like fantasy, so one of them's like between sci-fi and fantasy realm, but it wasn't really my brand in terms of the other projects that I had done that people knew about publicly and whatnot. So I kind of always thought that I wouldn't get the chance to write on something sci-fi because that just wasn't the kind of jobs that I was going out for. And then, yeah, this job came up, and luckily I had a script that already was in the sci-fi zone. And Jonathan read it, and I'm so grateful, really liked it. So that was how I ended up getting to do this. But yeah, I'm definitely not like a straight sci-fi writer or a hard sci-fi writer. So that was this is my first time doing that, which is really fun.
So you said you like fantasy as well. What kinds of books or shows or?
Yeah, I'm a huge like Patrick Rothfuss fan. I love the Kingkiller Chronicles and have been waiting for Doors of Stone for like years and years of my life.
Mm-hmm.
I grew up reading like Mists of Avalon, which some issues with the author nowadays, but that book was like important to me, and I really love Tolkien and like a lot of the sort of classic fantasy novels. And then I guess I was recently reading N.K. Jemisin, which is kind of like between sci-fi and fantasy. Yeah, I'll read whatever. Wheel of Time, love it.
Oh, okay. So you're not as newbie as he made us think.
Yeah,
As far-
a lot of crap.
you have to get him back for that.
It will.
And so when you Museum of Death was your first full script to write, or
Yeah,
that was kind of a big episode. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it was. I think I got really lucky because I also like horror, and it's kind of in the horror sphere a little bit too, and a little bit different, I think, from a lot of the episodes that we've done in the past or even this season. Yeah, but it was a big undertaking, kind of.
It really was. So,
Yeah.
When scripts are handed out, did you go for this particular episode knowing that it was going to be kind of in your horror vein? Mm-hmm.
I think, well, we kind of write on a rotation. And then I think that sometimes part of it will be based a little bit on stuff that we pitched in the room. But I think like this was an idea that Jonathan originally had, kind of broadly speaking, was that like we would go back and there would be a bunch of posed dead bodies. And then we had to figure out how to get there. But it kind of just landed in my lap, and then happens to also be a thing that I really like. So I feel like I just got lucky, kind of.
Wow, I think it's probably he saw your talent where you shine and wanted to give you the chance to really make a mark. And this episode is pivotal in a lot of ways. It had a story about Ava and her brother and that kind of thing. So it was extremely important. When you were thinking about how to approach the writing of the episode, were you given complete like freedom to write what you wanted to write, or was it kind of still a collaborative?
I think it's pretty collaborative the way that we come up with the what we call like the story beats, which is basically like what's happening in each scene throughout the episode. So all of that stuff we come up with in the room, and then I think where we have room to play as the writers on our script is kind of like in the dialogue and in the specifics of like the scene work. So we'll go into it with basically the idea that like I know that in one scene, Garnett and Ava have to be looking at the computer and realize that there's a heat signature telling them someone is there. And then kind of how they talk about that, how they look at it, all of that stuff is up to me.
Mm-hmm. Cool.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Let us go to the chat room. And we also have a like on Facebook from Elizabeth Bowman. Thank you very much. And ARC54 asks, if you like fantasy, have you ever read Christine Freehand?
I have not.
Any books you recommend, ARC54, to our guest? Bring that up in the chat. And as I posted a little bit earlier, Nathan says walking through ARC3 would have been very, very scary.
I think it might have been pretty weird. But.
I don't know if you know, but we're probably going to ask this to one of the actors that we actually have got, who played Ava's brother, is going to be on our show.
Oh, cool.
But were those mannequins? Do you know? Or
okay, this is the craziest thing to me. Those were all extras and actors.
Those were all extras.
Stay completely still. And I don't know how they did it, because if someone were shining a flashlight in my eye, I would be blinking, I'd be crying, I wouldn't be standing there. I think it's like incredible. I was watching the dailies, and it's just like, it reminded me of I don't know if you guys ever saw that thing on like TikTok that was called the mannequin challenge. Like, I think it was a big pandemic thing where everyone had to stay really still and go around the room. It was just like that, but really like bigger production value version of that.
Yeah, I wasn't sure which it was, because sometimes I would think, oh no, those are mannequins. You cannot stand that still that long with light shining in your face and breathing right in your face. And
yeah, I don't know how they found so many people capable of doing that, but they did.
I guess they did. Okay. Yeah, and Elizabeth Bowman says they did amazing work as extras. They really, really did.
Yeah.
Do you have? So you kind of said kind of what you like. What would you like? I don't want you to spoil anything, but if you had your choice of a script for season 3 that hasn't been announced yet, and we're hoping season 3, so something totally different.
Yeah.
Would you want to do, if you could, another horror, or would you want to try some other genre?
I mean, I really do enjoy horror a lot, and that's another thing that I've kind of written in my free time. So I definitely would be down to do something horror-y again. I thought that was really fun. I'm trying to think what else would be fun genre-wise. I don't know. I haven't really gotten to do anything sort of like dream sequency or anything like that. So that something like that could be fun, something a little bit trippy. But yeah, I would definitely be down for another horror.
Oh, cool. Okay, here's something. Nathan made a comment. Someone should have played a prank on the extras standing still. Things like come on scene with a clown mask. Oh, that is rude, Nathan. See if you can get them to break character. Oh my goodness.
I'm sure they would have loved.
I'm sure they would have loved it. Well, let me go back now. I think it's Jag's time to come with some questions for you.
Yeah, so this will be about 40 minutes of questions. So here we go.
Okay, here we go.
No fair.
Nah, just kidding. So from After the Arc, again, I'm the big After the Arc. I understand that you and Madeline were newcomers to the writing room, but you are viewers and fans of season 1.
Yeah.
So you obviously know everything that happened in season 1 and stuff. So here, no, I'm not going to go to season 1. But what I wanted to ask you is, how did that prepare you for writing your first episode in season 2? Because you're bringing in all the established characters and their particular traits. I'm not a writer, so this is why. By the way, if you ever need to change your name from India Sage Wilson, you can always call yourself Incredible Show Writer. Okay, so just want to let you know that. Yeah, keep that in mind. So while we're discussing that, how did you get? I mean, I guess I'm more into this technical aspect. How did you get involved to write for that particular episode with the knowledge you had from season 1? And do they help you, or you're on your own? You talk to your dog? You know, how does that help?
I always talk to my dog when I'm writing and myself a lot. I think I know that we both, I don't want to speak for Maddie, but I think we both did this a lot. Went back, definitely we're rewatching the season 1 episodes again and again, because it's I think there's a certain rhythm and a cadence that different characters have, and you kind of have to figure out how to get that in your bones. And then we definitely both also asked for all of the written scripts from season 1, because that again is there's a certain way people speak on the page. And when you go in to write something, it's really helpful to know that. And I think a lot of times, especially when I was first starting out, JP and Jonathan and James were all super helpful with being oh, this line would be more quippy if it were Bryce, I think, or you might want to add a little something for this person, stuff like that. That was super helpful. And then I think the other thing that was fun coming in season 2 is that we all now have this base of knowledge in terms of everything that we know about people from season 1, like Ava, and getting to kind of expand that and think about who she might have been before she was on the arc and get a little bit more into that stuff. And even that kind of changes some of the ways that the characters act and present themselves. So I think that was really fun for me as a writer.
Right, because you also had to incorporate some of the stuff that has been leading up to that, which is Eastern Federation.
Yeah.
So I was just curious, do you get help from the group from that, or do you have to just sit in a corner somewhere and figure that out on your own? Or
no,
again, I'm approaching it from a technical aspect. If somebody that's watching wants to be a writer in TV,
yeah,
and they got their first shot on how to do that, I'm kind of trying to give them an inside view.
I think we all figure it out together. And I think one of the things that James is really good at, who's our writer's assistant and also one of the writers this season, is like keeping track of information. And like he's really good to ask if there's something where it's like, has Asia ever mentioned having a brother? Can we do that storyline?
Right.
Or did she say like
Right. Because you don't want to say it was a sister in one episode and now it's a brother in another.
Yeah, exactly.
You want the continuity.
Exactly. Yeah. So you want to make sure that you're like tracking that stuff and asking about things like that. And then I think something that's interesting that can be helpful when you're new writers coming in is like Maddie and I watched everything as audience members, as viewers with fresh eyes to this whole thing. And then I think sometimes because everyone was writing season 1, obviously they had 100 different versions of stories that they maybe didn't do. So occasionally when you come in new, you will remember the version that actually aired a little bit more clearly.
Right.
Right. So I think there's trade-offs in that way too.
Right. And finally, for my first volley of questions, do you write the action sequences as well? So when he's out there and, with the whole debris and the arc, going from 1 to 3, and you wrote that too? Do you have to put that in your head and write that on page?
That one, you have to put it in your head and write it on the page. That one changed a lot, I think. And sometimes the action sequences, like you write a version of it in the script, but we also have the stunt choreographer and then the VFX. And so sometimes the original version doesn't like work as well, which was actually with that sequence with Boyan out in space. I think in the original version, I think I've talked a little bit about this on After the Arc too. He was supposed to get smushed between like the new front end of the ship.
The horror.
Oh, wow. Jeez.
Which definitely would have been a lot. And then I think like as those different conversations were happening, and then we were on strike at that point. So a lot of that was more just production dealing with that. It became more practical. And honestly, I think it works a lot better. To have him be hit by this kind of flying debris rather than getting.
Yeah, I could see it in the script. Yeah, so his arm becomes the number 1 on the arc. Yeah, take his arm off, put it on this. No, just kidding.
Yeah, but I think in the original version, Ava's standing in kind of in the space between the two, and she hasn't fully gone out, and then he's kind of there with the front of the ship coming towards him.
So you really do like horror.
Mm-hmm.
All right, that's it for me on this round. Go ahead, take it back to Michael.
Yeah, Roger, have you got something?
Yeah, as a matter of fact, all right. I really want to get technical.
After that.
So you heard me chuckle when you said smushed. So how did you write it? How did it come out on script when he says that when he makes contact with Ark, the head of the Ark the first time? What was the wording, if you remember? Was it like kapow,
squish?
What was it?
I don't remember. I'd have to go look at what I believe it was something. There was some sort of dramatic like timing thing. Like Ava stands in the doorway and she can see the front of the arc, the 4 section moving towards her with Boyan silhouetted. And then as it makes contact, Boyan is crushed. And that's probably, the crushed is probably in bold and all caps.
Okay, so that translates as boing. That's how I get that. How did you write him getting taken out by the stuff? Was that a whoosh?
I think Jonathan, or maybe not, maybe Dean, whoever was allowed to do that at that point, redid it in the final version. Or maybe someone on set. I don't know.
Yeah, I have to ask something. I'm sorry, Roger. I mean, I just can't imagine how you would have written that. I just think about that, and it's like smush, boom, bang. It certainly isn't an old Batman 60s show. Definitely not.
Well, I loved it when she said smush. I said, okay, how did she write it?
Oh, yeah. It's just like, how do you write that?
I think of it as smooshed, but I don't think I wrote it as smooshed because you don't really want to.
Right.
You don't really want to hear or see too much of the smooshing. Away from the drama.
Oh
Nathan,
yeah,
Nathan
I
is too
saw that
funny.
on my
I
LinkedIn.
have to post this. There's a bit
Yeah.
of buoyant over here. There's a little bit of buoyant over there.
Yeah,
Buoyant
exactly.
everywhere.
That's probably what was on the script.
Yeah, it could
It
be.
could have been, yes.
I was like, going back to you, Roger. I'm sorry.
No, not at all. I wanted to follow up on the moment. There are a lot of frustrated writers out there in the world. So seeing you being able to do this, when was your moment that you had put? And I know you were on Dynasty and you did a few other items, but for the arc, when you had that moment that you wrote the phrase for who was it for, and what was it when you're like, that's my stuff? Whether it was in an episode that you wrote or contributing to another one. When did your fan moment arrive, if I may?
I think, this is hard. I think it's in something I can't tell you about yet.
Oh, okay.
Then don't say it.
Yeah, and I'm glad you said that then. Okay, well then let me back up a bit and change it. I had to follow up on that one. Oh my goodness, I got so excited on that one right now, but it had to do with
One
the
day I'll
writing.
tell you.
Oh, I didn't mean to twist your arm. I am so sorry. Wow, that worked. Hey guys, there's the thing. Play old and forgetful, and India will reveal it all. Just kidding.
Do you want to go to
They'll say-
Marcia, or do you want to
Or
go to Marcia first?
maybe we could ask, did they lay out the entire season for you, or you don't have to, we don't want any spoilers, but did you know in the beginning how the whole season was going to play out?
Yeah, I think when we started, Jonathan and Dean had some clear tent poles of we want this to happen at the midpoint, we want this to happen, we want this to happen. And then we kind of go into it thinking of ways to get to those different storylines, and then kind of pitching into that, I want this character to have this type of development, to start off good and end bad or whatever. How do we get there, So we get these kind of broad ideas, and then we all work together on the path that gets us there, and what types of, things happen along the way. But yeah, there's definitely we knew where the season was ending when we started.
Got it.
Yeah.
If I may.
And does the writers' room get lively sometimes?
Yeah, we get. I mean, it's funny because there are only 5 of us in there, 4 of us. Me, Jonathan, JP, and Maddie, and then Dean, and then and Dean's in and out kind of, and we spend so much time together that I think I don't know if you've seen on After the Arc, but we don't have too many windows, so it kind of feels like we're in our own little arc. And I think
it's like the brig, actually.
Yeah, after several hours, we get a little loopy sometimes. So.
I think that's what happened with that alternate universe episode.
Yes.
I think that's what that was.
Yeah, we were pre-strike, and we were kind of feeling fun and free. Yeah, but we have a lot of fun, and I think everyone is so nice. I feel like I've gotten really, really lucky with this job and some of my other ones. Everyone in this room is a delight to be around. So we joke around a lot. We have fun. We're always talking about different kind of someone will bring up a science article or something that's been in the news, and we'll be joking about it, and then eventually it turns into a storyline or something, which is always really fun. So yeah.
And it's amazing the world in which you get to play, because fantasy, sci-fi is anything.
Yeah. Yeah. That's the thing. I feel like there's nothing that you can pitch really that's too crazy, in this world that we're in. There are a lot of things that it's possible to have them happen. I think one of the things that I think, I'm trying to think of what would have been too crazy, was I think if the dead bodies on Arc 3, which I think at some point I probably pitched this, came back to life, or someone came back to life, I think then you're kind of jumping the shark a little, because it's well, once people are coming back to life, there's no no rules anymore.
Right.
So, yeah, I think we do have a lot of room to play. I mean, even having like parallel universes or things like that, it's, you know, the world is our oyster.
So when did you get to see the finished episode, your of Museum of Death? When did...
I'm trying to think. We get to see the dailies like while they're filming, and then there's like a director's cut and a network cut and a final cut. So they kind of come out over time. So you're seeing like more and more finished versions. And then let me think. I think some of the VFX stuff on 5 took a lot longer. So that one, we have screenings for some of the final episodes, which were happening probably like a couple months ago. But that one we hadn't seen because I think it took a while.
Right.
So when you saw the final episode, did you go, wow, at certain parts? Holy crap. Did I write that?
Yeah. I thought it was so fun. And like, I was like worried for a second. You get sometimes in your head, you're like, is everyone going to think I'm crazy? Like doing this? But it turned out really, really great. I'm super happy with it. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you, Roger.
I finally remembered going back to the writer's room, and I don't know what you call it, but did you have a chance to be the one that had, I guess in days past, it would have been chalk or a marker, you know, for the board when you're put, you know, beat by beat? Have you done that yet?
Yeah, we do it. We do like a digital board. So basically in other rooms that I've worked in, because I think it kind of depends on the vibe of your room and what you guys all like, we've had physical index cards and a whiteboard and stuff. And in this room, we do everything digitally, which feels fitting for
Yes.
Yeah, right. The show that we're working on. So yeah, we have a big like digital whiteboard with kind of index things that look like index cards, essentially. And so whenever it's your episode, you kind of are in charge of typing on the cards and typing up the beats the way that makes sense to you. And yeah, so I got to do that. And I have 3 episodes this season, so I got to do that for all of them.
Oh, excellent. I appreciate that.
Yeah.
Well, I'm going to follow up with a few others in a little bit. Okay. Michael?
I want to get to
yeah, we have quite a few, huh?
We got quite a few, but one of them, I know you can't answer part of this. So I'll talk to the first one.
Okay.
Is there anything different that you would like to see that didn't make the cut in your episode? And as I said, I don't think you know who the prankster is on set.
I have no idea.
Because you're not there. Yes, exactly. Yeah, so that's why I said I'll just the first part of the question.
Yeah, I'm trying to think if there's anything different.
Besides the squishy part.
Yeah, I'm honestly it might be the squish, but I actually think the version that we have works better. I think like sometimes every once in a while, like a joke or something gets cut just for time and whatnot.
Right.
So there's probably a couple things like that. But I don't know. I think a lot of it made it in and it worked pretty well. Yeah. So not really. Yeah.
Okay.
Not a very exciting answer. I'm sorry.
And then ARC 54, and then we're going to go to JAG after this. Have you wanted to do a bit undercover part on screen?
Oh.
I know Kevin Good did for episode 6 with his hand making it onto the show.
For me, I think it's so funny because basically everybody else in our writer's room besides me has an acting background, including Jonathan. And that is my nightmare. I get so nervous on camera. I am like not I think I'd have to be forced into doing that. So probably not. I think I would do it if it were like a non-speaking thing where I work in the cafeteria or something.
There you go.
That's what I would do. Yeah.
And then they'd have to fly you maybe too.
They'd have to.
Yeah, there you go.
There you go. Yeah.
This is a good strategy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, Jag, go ahead.
So I'm going to take it back a little bit and talk about something I've observed, and it actually came to light when we were doing a little bit more. Came to light when we were doing the interview earlier with Shalani. And I'm just curious if I'm right with this, if this is what you intended, or you're like, yeah, Jag, stop, quit the comment water. All right. So I'm noticing more human psyche, human conditioning that we're seeing now, especially now as we're going further in the episode. And while we're having fun in a great episode that you wrote with horror and the corpses and everything else, the underlying theme I picked up from that was how we deal with mental health.
Yeah.
And I was wondering if you intended that to be the underlying subplot or the underlying onion that you peel, because that was Eva and her friends trying to console her on how she was going to dealing with her brother, who was obviously gone far. So was that part of your initial planning? The other thing I wanted to ask you is, how long does it take you to write an episode with that meaning of, first of all, the horror, the effects and everything, but also including that extra layer that I found very interesting, because there's a line in there that actually got me. Actually, quite a few lines in there, but there was one where he says, "I want to go back to my family." He says, "I am your family."
Yeah.
That's where Eva said that. That was a pretty decent line that you put in there. So if you can walk me back through, how did you all plan that, or how did you plan for that to occur, that you have the top layer of the horror and the corpses and the visual effects and the squishy that didn't make it, but then you brought in that extra layer at the bottom with the mental health, which is very important for awareness that we need to kind of look for as well.
Yeah. I would say that firstly, just overall in terms of season 2, I think that we are super interested in getting into like the psyche and kind of emotional understory for like all of these people. Because I think in season 1, everyone is dealing with so much stuff. Like every emergency is so immediate, which obviously is still true just by virtue of like the nature of being on the work. But I do think that now that they kind of have a rhythm and more of a system and a hierarchy, people can, it gives us room to explore more of what's going on internally for all of these people. And especially in this episode, the mental health component was something that we talked a lot about in the room. And we were like, we want to be careful how we handle this, because we also want to be taking this seriously. And this is like a really serious thing they're dealing with, which I think also goes to the point of like not having it be a smoosh, because it's like, you don't want anything in a story like this that could come off silly. You know what I mean? It's like that would completely undermine kind of the emotional underpinnings of that story.
Right.
And then a lot of what we wanted to deal with was, thinking about if somebody is stuck alone in space. I mean, that's kind of like the most alone you can be on this ship with a bunch of bodies. And where does your mind go? And what does that look like? And I think, Boyan's story is really sad, because he is just trying. This is a world where it's really hard for anyone to be in touch with anybody they knew in their old life. And I think there's something really beautiful about him trying to find his sister and his family in this insanely like vast universe in space. Yeah. And so I think his story is actually like really sad, and he does have this attachment to a world that he has created in his mind. And I think the mental illness component's really serious. And then some of what the doctors say about the fact that, like, when they bring Boyan onto Arc 1, they're like, he's gone through this whole thing and he may never be the person that you knew before, because he's different now. And we really wanted to like make a point about that and about what this person has gone through. And I think everyone on Arc 1 is also going through these pretty intense emotional journeys that they have to kind of cycle through quickly because of all of the more concrete stuff that's happening around them. So yeah, we definitely talked a lot about that and wanted to make kind of a statement about the importance of mental health, even in this landscape that they're in.
Yeah, because I think it's just so timely in just the way we live in the world now. We have the veterans, we have everybody with PTSD, things like that. That, like I said earlier with Shalini, is that we sometimes tune into the show for an entertainment value, but you can come away with something more, more deep or more in depth by just peeling the layer down. And like I said, nothing wrong with the episode. I'd greatly written, but I did notice that sub, and I said I need to ask that because I wanted to make sure it wasn't just me picking up on something and making the arc, more than what it was. But back to just a real question: how long does it take you to write the script?
I think this one was pretty crazy because this one I had to get done before we went on strike.
Right.
Ooh.
I think I had about 24 to 48 hours to write the actual script.
That's not a lot of time.
No.
So you type 200,000 words per minute, or?
I do type very quickly. But yeah, obviously before you get to the actual script, you have a pretty in-depth kind of like outline and treatment format. So it's not that like nothing was written, because the outline goes scene by scene. You have an idea of what's going on. So
Got it.
the verbiage is there.
Yeah.
But yeah, the actual script for this one, I was writing basically up until the hour before the strike started.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
And
Well,
so
you're the professional connoisseur that you are. You did a great job.
thank you.
So, it's a very good episode. So I'm going to take it back to Michael. Thank you, Mike.
Yeah. Okay. Let me. I think I had one more question. Then I'm going to go to Roger. Okay. This was Elizabeth Bowman said, since we couldn't answer the prankster on set, is there a prankster in the writer's environment then?
I think
Or don't you dare say anything?
They may be watching.
it might be JP, but in a more this is a very writerly kind of prank where he's always pitching very, very dark. And sometimes sometimes we go there and then we're like, wait, JP, we can't kill everyone on the ship. That's
Everybody gets squished, right?
everybody gets smooshed.
Budget would be cut.
Yeah, and then there are a couple. We're in a bigger building with a lot of people from Electric Entertainment. So there are also people who float in and out and kind of make. Kevin comes in and is always a good time. So maybe it's Kevin.
Wow, that's great.
Okay, Roger.
As a matter of fact, yes, I'm sorry if I was distracted. I was looking for my notes when I saw the episode, and I found them, thank goodness.
You had to go through 3 other episodes to get them.
Yeah, sorry, but I got them. So some technical questions on the story writing process, and please educate us on this. Now, a lot of us are Star Trek fans, so we understand how Star Trek told a story with an A plot line and a B and maybe a C. Does it work kind of the same way? Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Be that as it may. Thank you.
Even the dog agrees.
Oh, I didn't hear that. Darn. That was good. Okay. So in this story I guess Kelly would have been the B story and Ava would have been the A story. Or am I wrong on that?
You're right. And then I
Okay.
think Angus and Alicia is probably our C story.
That's right. That's right. Very good. Yes, I did miss that, which was really cool, especially when Angus goes. Yeah. Okay, we'll get to that in a bit. But with Kelly, there was a lot of deep stuff with her. She is suffering through, well, you know better than we do, on everything that happened last year and is carried over to this year. You had the chance to write the scenes with trust. And they talk about post-humanism. You're writing stuff that in this program is 100 years from now, that in many ways is happening now. Does it kind of, it's like, wow, is this like I'm actually doing it now? Or is it something that you're like, oh, no, I'm setting the framework for the future? How do you take that part of it? Because it is really happening in some ways now.
Yeah, I think a lot of what we do, even though it may not always seem like super grounded, is based on, like, I think I mentioned that we look at a lot of articles and stuff, and all of us read a lot and come into the office with different ideas for things based on that stuff. And I think this idea, Jonathan had been reading a lot about what's called transhumanism, which is like basically implanting and augmenting human people. And so Kelly is kind of based on a version of that that's just projected further into the future. So a more advanced version than like what we're seeing now. But I do think there's a lot of stuff on the show, and like that in particular, that isn't actually even as far out as like the timeline of when the show would be taking place. A lot of that stuff is like more, I think, potentially in our immediate future. And I think
Yeah.
that that's part of why we want to talk about it, because I think that's one of the things that's really fun about sci-fi, is to kind of play with stuff that is a component of our reality or a potential reality that's not that far away, and to kind of discuss the implications of certain things, AI and augmentation, things like that, but in a way that is like a step removed. So I think it's easier for people to digest and to think about.
One of my co-hosts talked about the mental health aspect just a moment ago, and there was a scene where Kelly and Trust discuss her father, and there was a lot in that. Well, to me, it was a short scene, but there was a whole lot of stuff there.
Yeah.
How long did it take you to come to all that? Putting all the ideas from all the other writers, because that scene stands out. It gives her, not necessarily hope. This is, wait a minute, I can peel the onion back, and this one doesn't make me cry, or I shouldn't say that, doesn't burn my eyes,
Yeah. I think Kelly's one of my favorite characters, like since when she first came on the show in season 1. And I think it's interesting because obviously there is a way in which she's kind of like, oh, she's a killing monster, she's just kind of like robotic, scary individual. And then I think it is so fun, like you said, to peel the onion back on someone like that and be like, but what is behind that? Because at the end of the day, Kelly is human, and she does have this interesting backstory. And I think that also speaks to, just in season 2, again, being able to go deeper into people's emotional histories and into what made them this person that they are now on the arc, and how is that playing a role in what they're doing now. And I do think it gives you this feeling of hope that we haven't really had for her up till this point. I think she was just kind of a scary villain character. And one of my favorite things is when your villain gets an arc where you get to learn new things about them, or a backstory, an origin story, like stuff like that is really cool. And so it was really fun to get to do that with Kelly.
In the first season, we took Kelly as a spoiled brat, mommy's baby that could do whatever she wanted. She can kill. She was a fearsome person. What we've seen in these next 7 episodes, wow. There was no onion in episode. It was a blunt instrument. And now, for lack of a better word, it is. And what you guys have been doing has just, wow. So, yeah, I don't want to repeat what you just said. So that was
Roger,
awesome.
It was a chainsaw.
It was okay. We can talk about that. Yeah, all the different little tools and things that she's had at her disposal, which is funny.
Well, I meant the onion. I said she just took a chainsaw and just because she likes horror, so she just did this chainsaw and got rid of all the stuff. Say, look, this is what she's really like.
Yeah, she had a couple more layers to go through.
Absolutely, you needed that chainsaw to get through them all.
Very good. Yes. That is cool. I didn't catch it the first time. So before I hand it off to Marcia, one final one. Well, I'll have more if we have time. The lullaby. Yeah. How'd that come about?
Yeah, well, I think so. One thing that has been fun to play with is, obviously, because we shoot in Serbia, a lot of our cast is Serbian, and we like to try and find ways to kind of like incorporate that into the story of the show and into our characters. And so we were like, oh, wouldn't it be great, if Eva's hearing this Serbian lullaby that she recognizes from her childhood. And we kind of also had a lot of discussions about how like sound and smell both elicit these memories that take you to a certain place so fast. And we were like, what is the one hint that she could get before we actually reveal her brother that would like immediately click for her that this is someone she knows, and kind of start that. And it's a fun little bit of like mystery, and I think it's also like a little bit of a horror trope that's fun for me, like a spooky whistle or a song, stuff like that. Yeah.
Oh, that's cool. I appreciate that. There's depth to all of this. Thank you. Michael? Who?
No, go to next to you.
Marcia!
Marcia, thank you. Yeah, we've been talking about some really deep threads running through the episode. And another one I looked at was Angus. This kind of sea story, I think, because he just got up from his sick bed, You know, he's still using his cane, I believe, in this episode. And he goes back to where he felt most at home, and things have changed.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like there's this interesting thing because all of these people have been put here in this bizarre circumstance. And I think a lot of the people on the arc have kind of assigned themselves things, or Garnet has assigned them things, and those things have been a way for them to make themselves, like you said, feel at home or create some new kind of safe home space for themselves, even in a really chaotic world. And I think you forget that almost sometimes because you get so used to them doing the roles that we're used to them playing on the show. And so we were like, oh, that's interesting. We were like, obviously somebody has to take over Angus's work because he's doing an important thing that needs to be done all the time, every single day. And then you also have this new element of the 15ers. And I think we were starting to explore, like, how are these new people going to shake up the world that our cast is used to, and what are going to be the new facets of that, and what jobs and skills would they have. And so we were kind of like, well, what if somebody was in the bio shelter and they're doing Angus's job? And Angus in particular is a character who obviously in the other arc he had some more fighting skills and stuff, but the Angus that we know doesn't really do stuff like that. And so he has this one really important purpose that I think is like makes him feel needed and wanted on the arc. And, you know, I think we wanted to kind of talk about who is he when that is gone and when he doesn't have that anymore, and what does that look like? Yeah, so it's like kind of a little sad story about how that's his purpose right now, at least.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Was there any talk of removing him from the bioshelter and giving him something else? Because that kind of ran through my mind when I was watching that scene. I was thinking, well,
there was talk. I kept pitching. I really wanted him. Maybe this actually is an answer to something that I really wanted to get into.
Yeah, don't.
Yeah, no spoilers. But I was just, you know, because we've watched season. We've watched episode 7, so we know that he has come back.
Yeah.
Too, and
I guess it's a spoiler that doesn't happen, but I loved other arc Angus. So it's not a spoiler, it just never happens. But I just wanted like an Angus like training montage, Rocky-esque thing where he's like fighting. Or like that. Just I think I had a vision of him and Bryce doing fighting stuff.
Oh.
It was more specifically, it's not even like that an arc doesn't happen or anything like that. It's more specifically, I wanted a quippy scene with him and Bryce doing fighting together.
Yeah, and then one thing about another thing about Kelly and Trust, Trust's cruelty to her in telling and his delight in telling her horrible things about her past was. Do you get to see, for instance, Bohan? Did you know who was going to play Bohan before? Yeah.
We know he was cast like once the script was written and everything like that. So we didn't know ahead of time who was going to be playing him.
My guess is you were happy with what you saw.
Yes, so happy. He's amazing, and I think to be able to like capture people for one episode like that is like it's really cool.
And we're going to be excited because we're going to get to talk to him in a little while too. So this is really exciting.
Yeah, that was me telling Michael I want him.
I already started searching for him before Jagged even said anything. I mean, I was impressed with his acting too, and it was like, wow. And one episode, but boy, did he make an impact.
And we know that Ryan took ballet, so his kind of his alternate. We saw part of that training in that episode.
I'm not saying nothing like that ever comes back. I'm just saying I wanted a Bryce and him scene.
So,
Well, I
okay.
wanted to ask you if you have what talents, hidden talents, or that we don't know that India Sage might have.
I don't know, is binge watching TV a hidden talent?
That's a talent. That's an Olympic sport, I think.
And when I was growing up, I don't do it anymore, but I've been considering getting back into it. I played the harp, so.
Oh, I love that. I
That's
love
a
that.
nice instrument.
Yeah, it would have to be in the After Earth box, and it's kind of not. It's a little bulky, but maybe. Yeah.
Yeah. Let's go to a couple more
That's a
questions.
beautiful instrument. Thank you.
Yeah. Arc54 says, since you were a fan of horror, maybe you and Taki could collab on a non-art project.
Yeah, that would be super fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, always down.
And then Omega Swiper wants to know your advice on spec writing.
Oh yeah. I guess that's a big question, but my advice on it generally is like write something that you're really passionate about, because I think that always comes through. I think there are always going to be people giving you advice about like what there's a market for, what there's not, whatever. In my experience, I've totally had people tell me not to write in certain things because it's not going to sell or whatever, and then those things have gone on to get me jobs, and I just wrote them because I was passionate about them. I think especially if you're just doing something on spec, you don't even need to really be thinking about like how producible it is. Like just write the best version that you can. Like don't worry too much about budget or anything like that, because even if that specific thing doesn't get made, somebody will read something that you've written and be like, wow, you have something here, you have a voice, you have something that you care about. And I think just do that. And then the other piece of advice that I would give that's more technical is like, I would say adhere to like standard page counts, format.
Yeah.
Look for typos.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, that stuff.
Yeah.
And
here's a follow-up from them talking about your Dynasty work. I love Dynasty when the character Fallon's brother sang, and he sang so good.
He did sing really great. He was like great. Everyone on that cast was a very talented singer. And on the arc, actually, I know there are a couple different talented musicians and singers. So we're always like musical episode, maybe.
Yeah. And they say everyone hated Fallon's brother as a character. You truly made him hated. Good work.
Well, you know. That's true.
Now going back to the Angus stuff, my money would have been on Angus nerd food.
I'm not saying no nerd food, you know.
So
go ahead, Jack. No, go ahead. Jack.
Okay, so I'm curious, how do you come up with a character name? Because I did a research on Boyan, and in Serbian that means struggle or fight.
Yeah.
So I'm wondering, does that play into it?
Yeah, I think I don't actually remember specifically how that name came about, because usually I will Google stuff, especially like if you have a sort of like ethnic, geographic, whatever background for your character, I will look up stuff in different languages and common names and kind of try to find something that feels true to who that person is. And then this one's a little bit more funny, but Boyan's wife is named after my dog who's walking around back here, Millie. So sometimes it's also just me sliding in a little personal.
Any resemblance is purely coincidental, right?
Yes.
Because I was freaking out when they did the whistling. With that part of the script when he's doing the whistling?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
so I'm already freaking out when he's doing the whistling. It says, I want to present you to my wife. I'm expecting to see, a lovely wife and stuff. And then that's when it opened the whole door.
You didn't think she was lovely?
Well, maybe the lighting was different. Maybe she didn't have the right makeup. But it was just interesting that when I did that research, I said, wow, I wonder if they go through that and say, okay, struggle and fight. Because he is struggling and he's fighting. And that was just so cool that I may have just, opened the door to something you go, oh, dude, we do that all the time, or that kind of thing?
Usually, yeah, there is some kind of like backstory to most of the names we give. Occasionally, it's just like I like this name, or someone I went to college with, or it's my dog. But
Yeah, your dog. Let me look up your dog's name. Not just kidding. But that's all I had for this round. Go ahead, Roger.
Yeah, well, we got, we're at the top of the hour.
Oh, we're at the top.
We're at the top of the hour. I don't know how much time we have with you, but let's go around one more round. And if you do have a comment, please post it now, because I will do them after everybody has one more round. So we'll go ahead and start with Roger.
All kidding aside, India, you did say an hour. Are we over? Do you have plans? It is Saturday night.
I know. That's why I was saying
Wait a
one
minute.
quick
It's
round.
Friday.
Oh my God, it's Friday.
Come on, Roger, stick with us here.
I'm sorry. My FTL's messed up. Okay.
Yeah.
I will take advantage of this. I want to ask you several things. On the next episode, episode 6, remember Earth. They whipped out that that carriage scene or anything. If you were there, whether as a character or you, India, being on the ark, what would you have pulled out?
Well, that's what I was saying. I would hope that there'd be a harp in there, but I don't know if it would fit. I think that would be. I think maybe that. I'm trying to think if there's something else. I recently started whittling, so maybe a little whittling set is a more practical thing. Although probably a short supply of wood.
Okay.
Something like that might be fun. Yeah.
That is cool. And I apologize. I was coming up with a whole bunch of questions right now, so I kind of missed the thing about the heart. I'm so sorry.
I also think I said the After Earth box because my brain did a little.
No, hey, it's all good. No, I'm the one that did that one. As a writer, young lady, no insult intended. Do you remember TV Guide?
Yeah.
Okay. Quick thought experiment. Talking about your episode, the 5th episode, okay? To give you an idea, Star Trek V, the producers were saying, what is it going to be? What is TV Guide going to say about our movie? Kirk and crew meet God. Alien 3, Ripley, believe it or not, that's funny, is back to battle the creature on a dismal colony. That's creative. That was on them. And for 1917, during the First World War, 2 young British officers receive orders to venture deep behind enemy lines to deliver a critical message that could prevent the massacre of soldiers.
Yeah.
Knowing that, if we look at your episode, what does TV Guide in 1 or 2 sentences? I know this is messed up, India. I'm sorry.
That's fine.
How do they write your episode? I know the staff was involved, but your name is on it.
I think it would be like the arc takes the dark turn as buried secrets and
this is good.
Something.
I like something.
Old friends come back to life.
Ooh.
Like the dog.
A little double entendre about, death.
Yes.
Something like that, yeah.
No, I like that. That is really cool. I do appreciate that. And let's see, I was going to go into some other items, but no, it's all right. I want to go to my other co-host because, again, we want to respect your time because it is there's a harp involved. I missed that. And it's Friday night. I missed that too. So I don't want to go over 3. Marcia.
Thank you. Talking about maybe some now that season 2 is over and what you might be working on coming up in. Yeah, I saw there was a couple of projects that looked interesting, and I wondered if you were still working on, particularly the Zoe Kravitz project.
That one is still, it's in development, and then it's one of the projects that I think like a lot of things kind of got like paused during the strike. So TBD. Yeah, and I'm always kind of, I think. I feel like pretty much everyone in the writer's room is always also kind of working on some personal stuff too. So yeah, I have a couple projects that I'm kind of like pitching on and stuff right now. Like a couple like adaptations of things, and one of those is a SYFY thing, but I can't give details yet.
Yeah, an NDA or something like that.
Yeah.
Well,
what is
one
that?
thing. about if I could say the name of the project that you're working on with the PHATTY PATTY project, which the idea of, and it was animated and animation idea, and the concept of it was is really interesting for me particularly, and it sounds like a project that really comes from inside of you and your experience. So I'm hoping that gets back on track, and we get to see that soon.
That project is definitely comes from like a personal place, and it's kind of like inspired by a little bit of my life and a little bit of my mom's life. So hopefully we'll see. Yeah.
Well, good. And sports, the NFL season is getting ready to start. Are you a sports fan by any chance?
I'm not.
Well,
I can't get you into trouble that way, so I'm gonna leave that alone. But thank you for joining us today. It's been really wonderful.
Thank you.
Jag.
Yeah, so I love your interaction online when we do a live episode. And you, James, Kevin, you all are just JP. You all are just having Dean. You all are just having a blast. So I'm going to ask what I think asked them. So it's your turn. Have you been surprised by what you see online in regards to people predicting things or guessing things? Without mentioning spoilers, right? Within up to episode where we are, have up to date. Have you seen anything that like, oh wow, this Jag guy, he's amazing? No, I'm not kidding. But I just love to see you guys. You guys are loving it as much as we are.
Yeah.
No, go ahead.
Oh yeah. We have so much fun doing that, and we're all usually like either we're like actually physically together or we're texting in our group text.
Yeah.
And so sometimes I won't say what, but sometimes we'll see one. There was a tweet a while ago where we were like, oh, that person guessed a whole very specific storyline.
Right.
And it's like.
You start looking them up. Okay, we need to hire this guy.
We were like, well, they hacked the system. Something. I don't know how they're getting this stuff. So some people are like really on it. Also, sometimes you see a tweet where you're like, that's a better idea than what we did. So.
Isn't that amazing? Because you'll see something like, just for that example, when Angus and Alicia were together, there's this one tweet where they said, wouldn't it have been cool that when she opens the door, there's a man behind Alicia? And JP said, who is that guy? Why isn't he running for the show? Because that's a better idea than we had. So
we're always like texting that. We're always like, that was pretty smart. we should write that next time.
If you ever wondered if we see that excitement from you guys, we see it. You guys are having so much fun with us. And putting your gifts. I've seen some of your gifts are hilarious.
We love it.
Yeah. So I bet you that feels good because you're getting that quantifiable feedback.
Yeah.
That people are watching the show and stuff and enjoying it and stuff, and maybe getting a certain joke that you put in or something in that. So I was just wondering if you were enjoying. I already knew the answer, but I want everybody to know that if you're on X, hashtag the ARC is the way to get into that conversation on Wednesdays. These guys are aghast. These guys are hilarious. So
I think it's also like, obviously we do this for people to see it and engage with it. So it's so nice to like have people care about it and be having fun with it. And it's great.
Yeah. Well, that's it for me on my end. And I thank you again. And it's just such a pleasure to finally meet you and that you're doing well and everything. Just real quick, final question. Name of your dog. Or the
Millie.
dogs? Okay.
Yes.
There you go. There you go.
Yeah.
All right. I'll bring it back to Michael.
Yeah, Millie has made at least 3 appearances, just so you know.
I was going to say, she wants to be on there.
We see
at
her.
least 3.
She's very busy. She's got the logo.
Well, and that's okay. But I do want to thank everyone in the chat room that came in to ask questions about your writing work and some other things. But there was a couple questions that I don't want to get to because they really didn't have, too much to do with what we were talking about tonight. But you can see some of the questions that were asked. And Nathan said the final thing is, I don't do many predictions, but when it's tweeting my gifts, I often making a witty comment for a laugh, which his stuff is really. One of them was, "Look at Lane. I mean Ian."
Ian, right.
Yeah. Lane and Ian that's so fun to me, and I feel like there will be endless jokes there. So
Yeah,
yeah.
there will be. That's a good character.
Yeah, but I would like to thank you also, India, for coming. Well, we had to cancel a few weeks ago, but I'm so glad that you could come this week.
I'm so honored and happy to be here.
We loved having you. We loved having
Absolutely.
you. Is there anything you'd like to close with that maybe we didn't cover that you'd like to say, or?
Oh my gosh. No, just I think it's just like really exciting to have everyone watching and to have people care, and I don't know, I just have so much fun with this, and I hope we get season 3. Tell your friends to watch.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, and your Instagram is down. It's been scrolling down at the end of the show, so that's her Instagram. So you can.
It's not very exciting.
Yeah, it's real exciting. Yes.
Yes, and then I'm assuming you, Michael, we have an invitation if you want to return. So,
absolutely. Yes,
I just want to make sure that that's out there.
No, that is out there live for everyone to hear.
Michael, why don't you ask about, you've already got the actors committed, you have the directors committed, maybe the writers.
I've asked a few of them, and I haven't gotten a definite.
Okay.
I did it off camera. However,
you need me to wrangle.
Yeah.
Well, you go ahead, Roger. You can tell them, because
you know what? It's just we brought it last year. We had 8 actors on to end the series when we were doing our review program on episode 10. 8 of them showed up, which was incredible. And now Michael was telling everyone that he wasn't going to do it again because, we did it once, that the directors wanted to do it. And then Ryan apparently, ran us through the ringer, and he says, no, I want to do this again. So I believe there's 3, maybe 4 actors. So it's going to be that. And we have a director's panel, and maybe we'll ask for a writer's panel. Wow, that would be wild.
Well, it'd be so fun. I don't want to speak for anybody, but
of course. No, that is cool. Allow me to answer this last question from Nathan. It was near the end, Nathan, where I did give you a shout out. So just FYI. I remember. I'm the one that remembered you, Nathan. Anyway, India, I learned so much today. It is wonderful to hear your aspect and your telling, a writer telling what was going on. But keep it up, young lady. Your talent obviously is there, and we're fans, and we can't wait to see what you do for us in the series and everything else. We're fans of what you do. Keep it up. Keep moving forward.
Thank you guys so much. This is amazing.
Those that want a sneak peek, because I think I'm not going to say anything on the show, but we have added 2 more guests. So if you want to go to ndbmedia.net, you can see it right there. I just uploaded our new front page of the web page. And if you go down the list, you can see the 2 people that we have added. One is a behind-the-scenes person, and one is the top 5 actors of the show.
Who could that be?
Who could that be? And there's more coming. So just so you all know. So basically next weekend, we have 3 more. We have 3 more interviews next weekend. I'm not going to say who. The following weekend, we also have 3. So we had 3 this weekend. So we're on a roll.
It's the summer series of the Ark.
Absolutely. Yep. So everybody have a pleasant rest of the evening if you've got a few minutes. If you're coming into the next day, like Nathan is already there, you have a great, wonderful new day, and we will all see you next time. Take it easy, everyone.
Bye, everybody.